a lot from this experience. Do you want to say hi to them and then maybe we can proceed with some questions?
Hi everyone. It's such a delight to be here. My name is Jahaanvi and I'm from the founding batch of Vedica. And I work for a public policy organization called US India Business Council. It is a part of the Lobbies Group, a US Chamber of Commerce. And I'm very thrilled to talk to you all.
Okay, great. Let's get started then. So, Janvi, I was looking at your profile, and after you completed your journalism, how are you thinking about your career back then? I have seen that usually in third year of college, there's a lot of anxiety around what will be the next step. There's a lot of pressure. How are you thinking about your career at that point?
So I think when I was studying journalism and mass communications, I started out by thinking that I wanted to write and be in content. And I did work for HT for a little bit, but by the end of that stint, I was pretty clear that I did not want to be in journalism. And right before I joined Vedica, I was just exploring and figuring out that how do I get into management? What are the different kinds of paths to get into management? What are the things I could do? And I was literally sort of in the process of figuring out when I found out about Vedica. And through my application process and interviews is when I got sort of excited about the whole idea and ended up at Vedica.
Great. Right. And one more thing that I've seen with a lot of students when we interview them, if they're not from conventional backgrounds like, say, a BBA or economics or engineering, they feel a bit left out when they're joining an MBA program. They feel like they don't belong here. And while we have seen so many of these students from very different backgrounds do really well, you are one of the examples. How are you feeling about this? Did you feel like you belong to a management program?
I never felt like I did not belong at Vedica, and I think it's not a conventional MBA program. Maybe if I were at a conventional MBA, I definitely would have felt that way. But I did not feel that way at Vedica at all. I think it was quite a, because it is a mix of management and liberal arts along with all the other things that we do. So you do end up feeling like you fit in.
That's great. That's great. And I think the founding batch was also this small cohort of people from different parts of the country, and everyone knew everyone there, and it was just and we had a great first batch to start with. And I wanted to next natural question was, it's always special when you're joining the first batch of any college, and it is a leap of faith because you don't have any track record, you don't have any placements or understanding of how the colleges perform. What made you take that leap with a college that was just launching?
So I think initially there was a little bit of inhibition, to be honest, but eventually, as I spoke to the program team, Anuradha, Pramath, the people who interviewed me, especially the interview process was, I think that really made me uh, excited about the program. And the moment I was in program, there wasn't a lot of inhibition in me, to be honest. There were times when we would get worried, but I think it did turn out to be really well. But the program team and the curriculum that we were sort of being offered, the Shadow a Woman CEO program, all of these things seemed very excited. And honestly, nobody else was offering those things for me at that point in time. So it did seem like a place where I could sort of be exploring the kind of things that I wanted to explore. So it gave me that kind of an opportunity. And I was a fresher. I was just literally out of college at that point in time. So I was much more open to than maybe I would have been if I would have had 10, 12 years of work experience. And I think it was a good decision that I made at that point in time.
Okay, and after you graduated from the program, what was sort of the key takeaways for you, both tangible and intangibles?
A lot of takeaways, and I feel because you are thrown so many there are so many parallel uh, tracks that run along with each other, so there are a lot of takeaways that happened at that point in time. A lot of learning from the peers, a lot of learning from the professors, from the courses. It was initially very difficult to unlearn, to sort of get myself into the process of into training my mind to think a certain way, and it gets very hectic and extensive, and so you have to really be prepared for that. And everybody's going to have a different journey. I feel it is going to be a different learning experience for each one of us, and that was something that I really do reflect back upon. There are still times when there are certain courses that I think of. There were courses where we were told to look at a way how we could identify what our personal leadership style is. And that was just very transformative, honestly. And there are still times where not just me, my peers as well, we would sort of be looking at those emails and reading through the findings of a particular test that we had taken so many years before. And I think that was very, very interesting.
That's very interesting that you go back to your, say, notes again, 5 years into the industry. That's quite fascinating. Any favorite course at Vedica that you absolutely miss and loved when you were going through it?
I think lots. My favorite course was the marketing course by Professor Godino. Economics by Pranav Sen was also really nice. But all the liberal arts courses are also, I think, very fantastic. And those are primarily the courses that I reflect upon a lot.
Mm-hmm. And one of the aspects that I've seen with Vedica is that most of our cohorts are very diverse. So, can you tell us a bit about what your batch was like back then, and what are the kind of peer learnings that happen in a business school? Because I feel like it's not talked about enough, the kind of learnings you have with your peers.
And so, to be honest, when I was at Vedica, I did not realize what it meant. The idea of peer learning, it was talked about a lot. In retrospect, it is one of my major takeaways. And every time I talk to a scholar, I would tell them that, please interact. There is a lot of value in building those relationships, not just with your faculty, with your program team, but with your peers as well, because they're all so diverse. They come from diverse backgrounds. And because you end up studying so many different things, it's natural that you land up in very diverse careers as well, which is a great way of learning, right? Like there are people from across the country. For our batch, 50% of our batch was from the southern part of the country. So we would end up fighting over food. And basically it was just a negotiation exercise where we would negotiate with each other about what is it, how we would like to structure our meals. And that's how, because we were from the founding batch, we would always negotiate on courses as well. There were times we would, because I wasn't from a quantitative background, therefore we would end up studying and learning those kinds of courses from people who had studied maybe engineering or economics. So those kinds of things were very, very helpful. And there still are times that, if I'm doing something that is from a particular industry, I would reach out to my peers from that industry. And now as the cohort size is increasing more and more, I think it's just a network. It's a great network. It is our own tribe that we can reach out to at any point in time. And we must, I feel.
Right, absolutely. And now we have more than 450 alums. And I remember in 2020 when the pandemic struck, and so for all of you, we have alumni groups that we stay connected on. And I remember there were so many people helping each other out, people who were looking for, say, plasma. Other alums would just call on behalf of them to verify those numbers. And it's just very heartening to see that it's not just these 18 months that you're associating with Vedica, but it's a community that you take with you, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And how does a life of a student change, professional life of a student change after an MBA program? Did you see any intangible changes in the way you grew in the program, not just in terms of skill set, but otherwise, and how professionals perceive you?
So honestly, I feel it changed a lot. It's quite a transformative journey that we go through. While it might be true of a lot of programs, I have been a part of Vedica, and I feel it has opened a horizon of opportunities that I probably wouldn't even know about existed. When we were being taught public policy courses at Vedica, initially I did not even realize that there is a career opportunity like that. Those courses seemed really interesting. They seemed very eye-opening, and that is how I honestly did get interested in this kind of a career opportunity. And it was because of the coursework that was thrown our way. It was because of the amazing faculty that we got a chance to attend classes with. And uh, I mean, everything is just honestly being served to you on a platter. The least you can do is to utilize it. And you don't even realize when you start enjoying those things, the amount of learning and transformation that happens through being part of those courses is just phenomenal.
Hmm.
And it's true to a lot of people who have ended up in different kinds of careers, I feel. And for myself, it has been phenomenal.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And if you had to give any advice to students who are going to join B schools in general and also Vedika, things that they need to focus on in an MBA program.
I think the first thing is that it gets very extensive. So be ready to unlearn, be ready to attend those classes. You will have to get out of your comfort zone, be ready and be excited to do that. There are times when it gets hectic. You are supposed to get worked up a little bit about your placements, but have some faith in the program, have faith in yourself. You will end up earning money, but think of a larger sort of a career that you want to be making for yourself. You will get, I feel, a lot of opportunity to explore what are your interests. So make use of them. You will meet a lot of interesting, exciting, very learned faculty. The chances of you meeting the chief statistician of India outside of a Vedica classroom is very bleak. So, and please make use of it. I personally struggle a lot with networking. It's a very big improvement area for me. And right at Vedica, I realized that there is a lot of value in building those relationships with your peers and with your mentors. Everybody who's at Vedica, a lot of faculty members, your mentors, are very, very helpful. It's a very helpful program team. Be open to them, ask for things. Don't shy away from asking for help. The worst that can come out of it is that people will say no, but everybody is very helpful. So you should ask for help, I feel. Yeah.
Thanks. Just a follow-up question on that. We hear networking a lot in business schools that you need to network, you need to form a network. How does this really work? Can you tell us how the meaning of networking has evolved for you?
I think for me, initially, so the nature of my job has been such that there are a lot of networking meet and greets. And I would just go to those meetings thinking that, oh, I have to meet people and talk to them. But eventually I've realized that it's not just about just having small talk with people. It is about building long lasting relationships, having some value addition to those conversations. And it is a long term thing. It is not a short term thing. And you don't know what kind of value it can actually bring to your career, to your life, to your growth in the long run. In public policy per se, you might want to not talk to somebody because they might seem very junior at a particular point in time, but tomorrow that same person can be in a very important job in a ministry that you want to work with. So if you are able to build that relationship very early on, it will have a lot of leverage and value in the long run, which can be true to a lot of careers. But I think it adds a lot of value to your personal life, to your work that you do, which is essentially something we all do look forward to, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, I'm sure Janvi, you'll agree that your colleagues at Vedika now, all of you are working towards carving a career, and 10 years from here or 5 years from here, you'll all be in some sort of leadership positions. The kind of network that you'll carry with yourself and the kind of opportunities that come from that, it's impossible to think of the possibilities right now, but I'm sure that's what is going to happen 5 7 years from here.
Absolutely. I mean, there are certain mentors that you are introduced to right at the beginning of the program. And it is maybe, a particular person who's a part of the program team, their connection, they have worked with that person in the past, or they are excited to mentor at the program. But if you're able to turn that connection, into your mentor, then it will just be very helpful. And that has happened for a lot of us. Some of my mentors are, in fact, even mentoring some of my friends. And
Okay.
because they're just so keen on mentoring. Like personally for me, I really enjoy talking to the scholars. It just feels like if there's something, one or two things that I have learned, and if I'm able to share those with some of the scholars, it makes me feel great. So imagine people who have been in the careers and at the pinnacle of whatever they do. For them, it must be very, very amazing to do those things. My boss is on the Shadow a Woman CEO program, and I've attended some meetings with the mentors and how they discuss uh, their processes of wanting to curate these the module for the scholars. For me, for someone who's been on the other side of the table, it's it's very overwhelming and humbling to see that experience. One of the mentors I remember was discussing that, the person who's shadowing her is very good at Excel, is very good at making presentations, texts, but doesn't talk a lot. And therefore, she was talking
Hmm.
about that how she looks forward to motivating that person to speak up. And it's just so fantastic that a woman who's so senior wants to do that and wants to be so helpful, right?
Hmm.
So everybody has that intent to help. If you are also able to put in some extra effort and intent into converting that, that's going to be very helpful.
Right. One thing that I see in India is that there's a lot of mentorship and coaching for senior professionals, both women and men.
Yes,
But there's not enough talk of mentoring at an early stage of your career. And when we're interviewing students, we see that so many of them are just hopping from one thing to another without much understanding of what it will mean to for their career. I mean, one way is to look at it that you're exploring and figuring out what you want, but it's important to have someone to really guide you on your career and just give you some direction. And I think that's something that definitely a lot of students can gain from.
I
Um,
agree.
right. And so, talking a bit about the placements and the end part of the program, how were you thinking about your career then? And you took up a brand role right after Vedica. So, can you talk a bit about what were you thinking at that point and what were your aspirations?
So I think I was pretty clear when I joined the program that I don't want to be in a content role. I did shadow somebody in the media industry, but and I started by picking up a content project, and then I was like, oh no, this is not the right way of going about it, and I changed it a little bit. And that is something I was able to do through my placements as well. And there was a lot of support that I received from the program team and my peers through the placement process. And it was not just a brand role, there was a lot of business development as well. I joined 9.9 Media and I worked with the CFO Forum, which is a business community for chief financial officers. And so we
Hmm.
used to do big conferences, small webinars, a lot of content creation for the chief financial officers of the country. And I think it was a lot of business development, and it was a membership driven program. So there were targets, and it was a really nice team, I feel, in retrospect, because for me, someone who was a fresher and was very young at that point in time, uh, to learn from that team was fantastic. They were very helpful. And uh, sometimes people can get competitive in a negative way. There wasn't that feeling in that group. A lot of the people who were leading that program were very quite great mentors to me. I still continue to talk to them and seek their guidance and leadership on things. And it was the CFO forum of 9.9 Media is one of their established brands, which has been there for quite a while. The people who were in that program were also running that program for a while. So to run all kinds of projects, small to really big ones with them, was great for me. It was very short, 1.5 years, and there was a lot of research and policy work that would happen there as well, which
Hmm.
finally led me into the role that I am at right now.
Yes, let's talk more about that. So, I'm sure it's a very exciting organization to work with, business advocacy work that you do, and it is a big collaboration. It's part of the US Chamber of Commerce. So, tell us a bit about what does this job look like? What do you do here? And then we'll move on to talk more about public policy as a field and different career opportunities there.
Yes. So to give a little bit of introduction to USIBC, it's a almost 50-year-old policy advocacy organization. It was formed upon the request of both the countries, governments, US and India. to help in the policy advocacy space of the US-India trade corridor. And I think for many years, anything and everything that happened in this trade corridor was because of the advocacy of USIBC. So it's a very important trade body, does very important, serious work. Prime Minister Modi, after he became the PM, went to US, and one of the first things he did was to speak at our AGM. So it is, I mean, that is how important the work of USIBC is. It is a membership-driven organization. And we do policy work for American companies in India and Indian companies in the US.
Okay. And if we talk about public policy as a field, what are the different kind of roles that one can get into, different kind of organizations? And is there any particular skill set or prerequisites that you need to have to get into this industry?
So I feel public policy is a combination of laws, regulations, policies, and a lot of other factors that work in this space. And policies are formed over a lot of reading, education, through the influence of policy advocacy groups, lobbyists, politicians, social groups, interest groups, etc. And if you are in this career, all of these people, all of the ministries, they end up becoming your stakeholders. You work with all of them. And it's not a slow moving sort of a career. India is a very important market right now, and it will continue to be so for some decades. It's not like a slow moving market. You're not at the back foot of things if you're in this career. It's like a South Indian movie where everything moves very quickly. It's not like a slow Oscar movie where it happens in stages. No, there are all different ways that you can sort of start your career in public policy. One is through working with the government and policies that consultancies that you can join and do research work with. Then the government of India opens a lot of consultant roles where you work with the government, different ministries on various projects. Depending upon your expertise and interest, you can apply for those roles. They open up on different websites, and ranging from 1 year to 5 year, I think, is the duration.
Jahaanvi, you're not audible.
The duration. Yeah. One sec. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
So with the government, there are different ways to join as a consultant, and the duration can be between 1 year to 5 years, and there are ways to increase that duration. Another way is to join a multilateral or an international organization like an IMF, World Bank, WHO, Asian Development Bank. These are very competitive roles, and there's a lot of competition. A lot of people apply for these roles, and you need to have a very good track record to be in these roles. Another way is to join through a consulting or an advisory for all of, for instance, if there is a particular state that the government is wanting to promote as the hub of investment, not only do they work with many multinationals to promote that, there are also consulting firms, maybe a McKinsey, BCG, Dalberg would be hired to help government to promote the state in a certain way. All of these consulting firms have government teams, and you can be on those teams and work as a consultant. So that is a career one can look at. Then there are various roles at think tanks and research organizations, where you would end up doing a lot of research, writing, statistics is involved, field surveys could be involved. Then you can join an NGO, a civil society, again, where you might end up doing some amount of field work, stakeholder engagement, which can be true of a lot of other avenues. But writing, research, reading, all of these things, I think, are very important in this particular field. There are certain, you should read at all times, but there are certain careers where you're supposed to read more than other careers. And I think public policy is one of those fields. There are different notifications coming up by government every day. You have to keep track of all of those things, build those relationships. Like I said, the idea is to sort of start building those relationships very early on, because the value those relationships can bring in the long run is just maximum. And one of the things that we do at our organization is to meet and network with everyone in the government, right from super senior level to the junior folks, who are very, very important in getting your work done. And you don't want anyone to become a roadblock in getting your advocacy work done.
Hmm. Thanks for that detailed answer. I
That
think
was
there were a
very
lot of insights
comprehensive.
in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would just want to say that it's going to be half point mark, and I can also see that I also presume some of you are taking notes and being very diligent about this. So if you have any questions, please feel free to throw it here in the chat, unmute yourself, ask Jahaanvi directly. She's been working at public policy for a few years now, and if someone wants to venture into a unconventional career, I think you should be asking her more questions. And she's done journalism before, then she did Vedica, now she did public policy. It just there are a lot of questions there itself. And at this point, if Rahul, if you can pause your question, I had one. Maybe it's a bit off, but
Yeah, sure.
there's this entire thing about doing a general MBA versus doing a very specific branch of an MBA or a certain specialization. What are your thoughts on what is better? And we obviously advocate for a general MBA because it kind of helps you don multiple hats. What is your experience being out there working for a few years?
So when I was excited about doing Vedica, because I was in the process of figuring out what is it I want to do. And if I would have ended up being in a program where I would have just been specializing into something, I wouldn't have learned about so many things. And for a career like public policy, it really helps if you know about different careers. There are times when you just have to learn about a particular sector and a particular thing in just a couple of hours, which happens a lot of times in a lot of careers these days. There are new things coming up every day, right? So for me personally, it made a lot of sense to do something where I get introduced to a lot of new courses, and which might be true for a lot of people, right? Unless you study those things, you know about them, how will you figure out that what is it that you want to do?
Thanks, Jahaanvi. Thanks for that. And what about your peers, since they've also done a general MBA course? How has it been for them, if you have any idea?
So for some of the people, I mean, I can't talk for everyone, but I think a lot of people have definitely benefited out of learning various courses, various tracks that are thrown at you at the program. While you're at the program, sometimes you don't realize the value of those courses. It might feel like it gets very, very hectic. But in retrospect, the kind of value, the kind of perspective those courses bring to you is very enlightening.
Yeah, thanks. I just a lot of students when they come to us, they ask us why you're not doing specializations, and I have this long list of arguments and points telling them what do you do doing a specialist course right now, but when you go to go and handle a team, you're going to have to handle specialists. So would you rather be a specialist being handled, or would you be someone who would be able to manage a group of specialists to get an output? So thanks for that, Rahul. You can continue.
I have one question. Again, when looking at your profile, I saw that you've been now working with USIBC for almost 5 years. And, in this day and age, I've seen that people just hop on to different jobs one after the other, and very few people carry on with one job for long. So, what was your motivation to stick around, and what's the stigma around this in the industry today?
So I think USIBC is a very entrepreneurial organization. You have the freedom of picking up new projects, trying out new sectors, which might not happen in a very big sort of an organization. But personally for me, and I hear that from some of my uh, colleagues as well, that you get the opportunity to learn and to explore fields, areas that you're interested in. So even though I have been here for 5 years, there are projects that have changed there. Not only do I work on US and India corridor, I also started working on Bangladesh, which is a completely new market for me. And it is even more upcoming than India in certain ways. So there's a lot of learning that is happening at the job until the time you're doing new things, you're challenging yourself. I think it is an exciting field to be in, which is why I've ended up being here for maybe longer than an average duration somebody might spend at an organization.
Great. I think we have some questions here. Jyoti, do you want to unmute yourself and ask a question?
I want to ask how to handle everything in starting of Vedica academic and hostel life. Like it's a residential program, so it is like someone will help in hostel or will taught in hostel.
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
I want to ask that how to handle everything in the starting of Vedica academic and the hostel life, because it's like a residential program. So someone will help us in the hostels in studying.
Yes, I think there is. So right at the beginning, there are some ice-breaking sessions that happens. Then eventually, there are courses where you are supposed to work with your peers, so you end up spending time with them. And so for our batch, we used to take a lot of help from people who were from different careers and different educational backgrounds to help with our learning of particular subjects. And I'm sure that will happen in your batch as well.
Yes, just to expand on that, Jyoti, in the first month, we'll have an extensive orientation where the idea is to really bring everyone on one platform and make sure that everyone is on the same page. So there'll be courses from each of the tracks: liberal arts 101, management 101, personal growth 101, which will really help you understand how to make most of the program and how to absorb most from the program. And as far as hostel is concerned, yes, there'll be wardens. Some of our team members, some of our program team members are living in the hostel, so you'll also have their guidance and help in the hostel, right?
Yeah, and Jyoti, I think you're attending the current Experience Vedica sessions as well, which are like a pre to the main liberal arts tracks and all of the tracks that you're going to go through. Keep attending.
And we will, yes, and we will also be having a session with our student life head, who will guide you more on what will your life look like once you come to Vedica. So that should be interesting. That will give you a lot of insights. I'm seeing a very interesting guest here now who has a question. Prasanna, who's also from our founding batch, is here. Welcome, Prasanna. You may ask your question now.
Hi, everyone. As already introduced, I'm also from the founding batch, and having been a peer of Jahaanvi, I've seen her, her career trajectory at very close quarters. And I just have a question for her. What do you think are your small wins over the last 5 years? What are the pivotal moments that you felt in the last 5 years where you felt like, you have reached a significant place and it's time for you to, push yourself to the next level? Can you give us some anecdotes?
Thank you, Prasanna. So like you can see, the peer learning, the challenging continues even after Vedica. And there is no way of running away from it. And so to reflect on my key learnings, key moments, there are a few. I've had different managers, and adjusting to them initially gets difficult. But to figure out that how do you maintain your personal brand of leadership and work style and be a catalyst in the work has something that has been very, I would say, interesting for me, just at my current role and at 9.9 Media. In addition to that, when I changed my jobs, I think I moved to a significantly large budget of programs compared to the programs that we used to do at my previous role. And it was very challenging. And it took a lot of hard work in convincing people around me that I could do it. There was a lot of learning, a lot of hard work that went into it. And in retrospect, I feel it wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have put in that amount of hard work. So you might have a lot of things that you would bring to the table, but there is no substitute to the hard work. There's no substitute to the skill set you should have to be doing the job that you're supposed to do. So be open to doing that. And you will have to every 5 years, 10 years down the line, reskill yourself, be open to learning new things. And you get into the habit of doing that when you are at Vedica, because irrespective of whichever field you come from, you will end up doing things that you haven't done before. So that habit building happened for me at Vedica, and I think it has been very, very helpful.
Awesome. So actually, for those of you who don't know, she also, Jahaanvi here had also set up the entire US Bangladesh Council. There is US India Business Council. There is US Bangladesh Business Council that has been recently set up. And Jahaanvi played a pivotal role there. Do you have one or two takeaways that you can, learnings that you can share with the scholars here?
So very similar to US India Business Council, there's another council called US Bangladesh Business Council, which advocates for policy issues of American companies in Bangladesh. And it is quite an upcoming, thriving market. It is one of the most important South Asian markets for all of these countries. We took a delegation of American CXOs very recently to Bangladesh. So for India, with respect to a lot of policy issues, we would look up to West. We'd be like, we want to write a particular policy the way US has written it. It might or might not be the best way of doing it, but that's how things are happening right now. Which in Bangladesh, if you go and be in that market, they would give examples of India with respect to writing those policies, which is something that was very eye-opening for me, that how different economies learn from each other, learn from their working styles, from their mistakes, from what they think are working well for them. So just working across two countries in South Asian markets has been very exciting and interesting for me.
Great, that's about it in terms of my questions.
Hey, since both of you are here, let me ask you one question together. So, one of the terms that comes up quite often at Vedica is sisterhood and the feeling of sisterhood. So what does this really mean, and what was it like to, what are the advantages of studying in an all women's program?
Jahaanvi, you first, please.
So for me, I think before Vedica, I'd only been in co-ed education. It was the first time I was in a program that was all women's. And I mean, I was very excited to be in a different kind of a career program. I didn't think of it as a place where there will be just only women. But eventually, as the coursework sort of moved ahead, I realized that it is such a safe space. You can discuss everything and anything. And most likely the issues that you have faced, there are other women also who might be older or might come from different backgrounds, would have also faced similar challenges. And to learn from their experiences, to learn from how they have navigated that particular situation, helps you identify that, is this something you want to do, or you want to do it in a different way, which were a lot of conversations we had at the program. We continue to do those at certain points in time, but Vedica provided a platform to have that kind of learning, have that opportunity.
So for me, sisterhood, it means different things, because I come from, even my schooling was on an all-girls school. So there it was a different environment. It was where women brought down women. And Vedica was different because there was a lot of awareness. We had a lot of gender bias being, there was a lot of awareness being brought in terms of
I think we
Prasanna,
lost
I think
Prasanna.
Froze.
No issues.
Okay.
I think we have one more hand raised. It's Sheetal.
Uh, yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna go with my video. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the nice thing. Sorry, Prasanna, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, go on. I'll go next.
Okay. So in, for us, it was, so Sheetal is also here. Jahaanvi, Sheetal and I, we were the youngest bunch in Vedica in our batch. And I think the age difference between us and the oldest person was about 12 years. And which means there is a tremendous amount of learning for us from each other. Even a 25 or a 27-year-old then at that time, who were already 4 or 5 years into the professional career, had a lot of learning from our fresh from a fresher perspective. And we had a tremendous amount of learning from professionals who are already along their career journey. So yeah, both sisterhood and the age aspects really tremendously helped in Vedica in terms of, I would say that's part of the peer learning, and it's not just the academic learning that I would put into basket of peer learning.
Thanks, Prasanna. I was just about to say, I may not knew this thing when I entered Vedica, what sisterhood is and what it means, and, the power of building networks. But today, when I go on sometimes, the client calls, I see all women leader, okay? And one day I was just talking to my boss and I see all women, just one guy. And I was so happy to see that. And that's when, it was like an inflection point for me to see that how important it is for, supporting women. And on those client calls, when we are pushing and negotiating and, the timeline and the deadline and the pricing, so much, but they were so supportive of each other. And those are the times when I realized, how important Vedica was for me and is for me, and the power of networking and the sisterhood, and when you have to negotiate and you want to prep a presentation in middle of the night, and I still call sometimes, some peer groups. It's like, oh, can I get a help? Can I get to have an understanding of this industry and that industry? That is so helpful. And that's, I think, I would advocate here as well today, being present in the session, that it's really important to focus on building networks, as Jahaanvi rightly said and mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. So yeah, and about my question, Jahaanvi, I think when I entered the industry, I feel like there are certain skill sets, you should be focusing at. What do you think, in your experience, what are the kind of skill set scholars should be focusing at while during the course?
Thank you, Sheetal and Prasanna. Thank you for joining the webinar and your questions. I think firstly, I want to talk about the power of sisterhood. I think there was this time at my one of my jobs where somebody was asking me. It was a very important meeting, and I was just right in the beginning of my job, so I was taking notes, and they were like, how many men are in the room? And I did not like that question. I was like, let me go check. I went inside. There were actually only men in the room. And it bothered me, but there was just no other way to change that than fill that room actually with women. And sometimes when you want to fill those rooms with women, it so happens that you don't find women at those positions. It's difficult, but you have to keep pushing for it. You have to be an ambassador for that. There is just no other way to change it. And yeah, and it's very empowering, honestly, to be able to do that. Sometimes it's a constant battle, but it's a battle not to give up upon, right? And the second question, which is on which is on what skill sets, yes. So I think, like I mentioned at the beginning, writing is very, very important, I feel, and which is something Vedica focuses on a lot. There is a writing center that you end up becoming a part on. There is a lot of writing exercise. Many writing exercises are thrown your way. And in that moment, it might feel like, oh, it's very, very difficult. It's very hectic. The idea is to actually put you through the habit of doing those things. It's very important to write professional emails, and not only it's an important part of your work, but it is also important to be able to sell yourself a certain way, right? And emails, your PowerPoints, your texts, how you talk, how you present yourself, all of this is very important to be able to excel in a professional career. And you get the opportunity to learn that, to build on that, to excel that at Vedica. So please utilize it. It is a very, very important skill. All the more important in public policy, but there are many, many careers where it's very important to get your writing in place. Then research, there is just no substitute for doing research, honestly. There is no other way you can learn about the things that you want to do, no other way to figure out what is right, what is wrong. Please research, please put in the hard work to figure out things, to read things. Then I think shadow is a very, very important part of the module, and there are a lot of skills that you sort of end up learn there. learning there. Everybody's shadow experience is going to end up being different from each other's. Please use it as an opportunity to learn, to build a mentorship relationship with your mentor. Not just your mentor, but there's so many other people that you get access to when you're in that kind of an internship module. Please utilize that. Like personally for me, I feel I got to spend very little time with my mentor, but because of how the program was structured, I got to spend a lot of time with different other CXOs in that organization. And it was a very good learning experience for me to be exposed to different roles within that particular organization. And finally, I think hard work, there's just no substitute to working hard, I feel. There is no substitute to the hard skills that you're supposed to have. Every soft skill is going to help you be a little bit better than your peers, but you have to know how to get your job done, right? So that is very, very important. Does that answer your question, Sheetal?
It absolutely does. Thank you.
Okay, maybe we can move to the next question. Sagarika, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yes, hello. So my question would be, firstly, what were your personal efforts or maybe your personal takeaways from like the shadow program as well as the placement? So what did you do actually to land a particular stream? Like suppose I wanted to go to marketing or consultancy. So what were your efforts to, just get the right place to start over or just get the right place to start your shadow mentorship, because like you might have an inclination towards a particular field. So what were your personal efforts apart from the Vedica college and people and everybody else which helped you to land that particular goal that you really wanted to go to?
Okay, I think it's an interesting question. So I think it started early on for me when I did a couple of internships. Then I was just not able to carry on with those internships because coursework got very extensive. But for my shadow program, I went ahead and reached out to Shraddha Sharma, who's the CEO of Your Story. And they just received their funding from Ratan Tata at that point in time. So she was not a formal mentor on the program. Till then, I reached out to her and she agreed, and I went ahead to go shadow her. And it was a great experience. There was a lot of learning that happened. She was extremely busy at that point in time. So I spent very little time just learning from her. And I feel, like I said, that everybody's experience is going to be very different. I know some of my peers ended up spending a lot of time with their mentors and learned through that. Some people will end up doing a lot of internship work through which they learn. The person who came to our office for the internship last year also did not get to spend a lot of in-person time with our managing director, but she did put in efforts to basically have them the kind of exposure that they wanted to have. So please put an effort into structuring how you want your shadow module to look like. You can pick up projects. I know there are certain kinds of projects that the program team helps you get access to if there's a particular kind of thing that you want to do. There are various kinds of courses. Talk to the person who's teaching those courses. There's faculty that is very helpful. You will have a lot of guest lectures. People who are coming from the industry, reach out to them, ask them. And I do not know if that is true for a lot of other programs, but people at Vedica who come to Vedica are extremely mentorly in nature. So please talk to them, ask for help. Everybody is very, very helpful. Reach out to alumni if you are interested in a particular field and you want to talk to one of us. Reach out to us. We can connect you to people who do similar kinds of things. And that is always very helpful.
Okay, and Jahaanvi, just one more question. Like you in the starting of the session, you said that you were not very much sure about that you will land in which particular field. Like in your case,
Yes.
it's public sector. So how did you decided that where your inclination actually lied? Like while the program was going on that you actually came across a point when you know that okay, this is the field where I want to see myself and maybe 5 years or 10 years later. So how was that journey for you? How did you actually decide that this is a thing that might interest me or can capture me in a job scenario for a longer period of time?
So I did not have a very long-term vision, to be honest. I still don't know if I know what I want to do 10 years down the line. I do look at the things that I enjoy, what are the skill sets to get there, how do I excel at those, where are the places that I will be able to challenge myself, make some difference, be in an exciting role, find people who are, find bosses who would have some tendency to mentor me, to guide me, because it's very important to have a good boss and a good team, because that is, I mean, I have realized the value of that, and it's very, very important to have that kind of an atmosphere, because you end up spending a lot of time at your job. It is a very important part of who you are. So for me, just it was through a lot of interviews that I gave with the program team, with my peers, with people who were elder to me in the program. My mentor at the program did a lot of interview sessions with me and helped me figure out what is it that I want to be doing in my career next. And it continued to happen while I was at work as well, that, what is the next thing that I want to do? And I still talk to them to figure out what are the things that are upcoming, what are the things I should be doing to build my skill set. So it's a constant process. I think it doesn't stop at a certain point in time. You don't have to know today that, hey, this is how I want my entire career to be. It will continue to evolve.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That would
Jahaanvi, we have a question. Where did you do your shadow?
So I went to Your Story. I shadowed Shraddha Sharma, who is the CEO of Your Story.
Okay. Ria has asked any advice on how to make most of the shadow program. You've covered some bits of it. Anything that you'd like to add?
So just one more thing is that we do have a lot of people who are on the program. Essentially, a program team is very well connected. I mean, Anuradha, I know, knows practically every CFO in the country. And Pramath is also really well connected, everybody who's on the program team as well. So please, I'm sure there is a way to share with them what are the careers that you're interested in. And sometimes, I was very sure that, there's just only one person I want to shadow. In retrospect, I think that's not the right way of looking at it, because whoever your mentor is, that you can tell them what you're interested in and build a way to get exposure to that particular thing. Given the seniority of these people, there are different things you can get exposed to within that organization as well, right? Because, at least for us, we were supposed to pick a project and work on that project. And I do not know, Rahul, is it still structured in a similar manner where people pick up projects and work on different
Yes,
projects?
so we have structured it. It's better structured now. So now before shadow, there's like a session with the mentors where we kind of understand what kind of projects they'll give, and it really depends on the organization and the mentor as to the projects that they'll get on in the shadow module. So that really depends on the organization and the mentor.
But I think
But in terms, yeah,
that's helpful,
continue.
because I think my boss did have a session with the person who had come into shadow us, and she was very sure that, these are the only things I want the person to do. So they were like, this person is interested in policy, we will have them only do policy work. It's not like she's a regular intern, so she will not be doing any administrative work. And for me, as someone who's been in that program, it was very very nice to have a mentor talk like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think be open. Sometimes we get very worked up about, hey, I'm getting this mentor, will I get this opportunity or not? You will. Please ask them questions when you are at your internship, and there are just a lot of opportunities that happen over there. So I think having faith in yourself and in the program really helps. And it gets difficult. You will get worked up about if you will get a good job or not, if your peer is having a different experience than you. It eventually ends up being a very great experience, and it will be different from everyone, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Right, absolutely. Well answered. And I think it's a very important point that you have to be open-minded. If you're too closed about it, you won't be able to make the most of your shadow. You won't be able to learn so much.
Yes.
Okay, so Mahi, you had raised your hand. Before we move to
Yes.
you, one question we have from Vidhi. Interesting. So Vidhi asks, why didn't you pursue public policy from maybe Azim Premji or Tess?
So I didn't even know about any of this. I figured out about public policy while I was at Vedika. Initially, when I attended those courses, I remember there was a course by Chandrika Bahadur, and I just found that course really fascinating, which got me excited to look up about the field. And if not for Vedika, I wouldn't have figured out about all of these career avenues. I would have probably definitely been in content and probably gone ahead to do marketing, maybe max to max, maybe business development. But the probability of me doing something like a public policy was very low, I feel.
You never know what kind of opportunities strike, and you kind of have a realization and you change direction. So I think definitely use Vedika as a platform to really find out your calling. And
Yes.
with the plethora of courses that you'll go through, I'm sure you'll be able to expose yourself to different things and maybe find what's meant for you.
I mean, before you know it, you're transformed. You suddenly are like, oh, I'm not the same person I was. You look at things differently. I mean, I remember we used to go to ORF's Raisina dialogue, right? And it's and now we attend that as in a different capacity professionally. And at that point in time, it was just like a thing to do that, everybody is doing it. It's exciting. A lot of ministers and important people are coming there. But it's such an important and exciting opportunity, right? You learn about how decisions at that level are made when you are exposed to that opportunity, which is amazing.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we'll move to our last question. Mahi, go ahead.
Hi everyone. So my question is, how did you prepare yourself, or what are the things you did before joining Vedika?
So before joining Vedika, I was a fresher. I studied journalism and mass communication. I did not know how to articulate it at that point in time, but I definitely did not want to be in journalism. And so I was just, as a young person, figuring out what are the different other things you could be doing other than journalism while doing a job in journalism. And that's when I figured out about Vedika. So my way of identifying what I wanted to do at that point in time was through different internships, and I did a lot of those.
I think Mahi could have also meant that now that she's gotten through the program, before she joins, anything that she can work on.
Oh, I think just be ready to unlearn. You are going to, your life is going to change, and be willing to learn, be open. That really helps. And it gets difficult. It's not like it's very easy to do that. A lot of things are going to come your way. So be excited. I think that helps. Maybe you can start reading the newspapers.
I was going to say newspaper on a daily basis, attend all the sessions that are being held right now, because there might be new things that you've never done before, and be open to not knowing, most importantly, at least in the first 3 months. Be like completely wipe your slate clean if possible, or at least be open to adding new things, I would say.
Yes,
Have a
maybe
growth
we
mindset.
Growth mindset, very important.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe we can take a last question now from Vidhi. Vidhi, come on, like you can unmute yourself and ask it. Vidhi.
You're not audible, Vidhi. Yeah, sure, that works.
Meanwhile, Kunal, anything else that you'd want to communicate to the
I can see
audience?
that most of you here are from the 8th batch. So please, what I want to say is you're about to start your next term in August, and July is also going to, you're going to see a few more sessions that are being currently held. You'll see the part 2 of all of these sessions. There'll be follow-ups, and there'll also be some new sessions that will be held. Keep attending those and keep suggesting us the times that work for you. I can see that a lot of you are not able to make it to these sessions because the times don't work for you. Please write to us on info ID, and you also have my email ID, you have Rahul's email ID, you have your buddies. Communicate with them, tell them if you're not able to attend these sessions. We're also providing recordings, so do that. For everyone who's new here, we are about to close our admissions. If you've reached here, you have some idea about what Vedica is, and we're about to close our admission. We're almost done with the last few seats, and I can just drop a link here for where you can apply, and I think I'll do that once Jahaanvi answers the question.
Okay, so Jahaanvi, the question is, do you in any way find yourself somewhat inferior having not pursued it from a more experienced university?
So, to be honest, not at all. I think there are certain amount of coursework that we did on public policy. We did cover a lot of that while at Vedica. In addition to that, it really helps to have the knowledge of various sectors that happened through Vedica for me, which gives me an edge over others. I did get into the habit of learning about various courses just very quickly while you are at Vedica. I think a term is just 6 weeks. So just in that short duration, you have to sort of find a way to figure out your course. I used to struggle a lot with quantitative courses, and through my peers is how I survived a lot of those courses initially. And that is something I continue to do right now as well, and which is true to anyone who comes in public policy. Things are changing every day. Government comes up with new notification literally every day. So you have to be on the top of things. You have to reskill yourself. There's no way that you cannot do it.
Yes, I guess the learning continues. There's no
Yes, yes,
stopping point. You have to keep learning and
yes,
upskilling
yes,
yourself, whatever field that you're in. Okay, I
yes.
think this brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Jahaanvi, for being so candid. And thank you all of you for attending this session on a Saturday and asking such insightful questions. We will be back with another session next week. And if you liked this session, please write us a woohoo in the chat so that we can bring you more alums and their journeys. And okay, there's one woohoo. There's just one woohoo so far. Come on. Okay, we have more woohoos. Jahaanvi ma'am, before joining later, you were doing job and I want to join. So Chinmay, you can connect with Jahaanvi separately. We will be ending this session now. And yeah, you can reach out to Jahaanvi on LinkedIn if you have any further queries. Thanks, Jahaanvi, again for being so candid and being here with our upcoming batch.
Thank you. I think it's just been very exciting talking to everyone, and I really enjoy talking to scholars. So I'll drop in my phone number. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk more.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Jahaanvi,
Thank you.
and thanks everyone.
So, thank you guys.
Need batch, if you have any questions, please connect with your buddy mentors. They'll redirect it to me.
Thanks, Sheetal and Prasanna, for joining us. It was a really nice surprise.
Thanks, Rahul. Anytime.